Commissioner, I want to thank you for all that you do to keep our country safe and to enforce our laws. My maternal grandfather was a U.S. Customs agent, and I appreciate greatly those who are willing to put themselves in difficult, awkward, sometimes very dangerous circumstances in order to do that. There's been a lot of confusion and some controversy over the supposed composition of these recent caravans. The President has insisted that the caravan includes some very bad actors, while a number of people, including some commentators in our news media, have insisted that it's largely, or at least substantially, composed of women and children. So can you set the record straight for us? Does the caravan include some dangerous criminals? And to what extent do you believe it poses a potential threat to our national security?
Thank you, Senator. The caravans that we've seen formed from the mid-October in Honduras, coming to the United States border, are different in many respects. The prior caravans, we saw the Via Crucis caravan, which happens annually in the spring. It's religiously organized. It's primarily about awareness. Only 300 members of that caravan even ever reached Tijuana and the U.S. border. This group was different from the outset. Its size overall, its composition, is primarily single adult male in composition, over 60%. And unfortunately, the tactics that we saw them use at 3 international borders now, the way they entered Guatemala, assaulting the Guatemalan police and pushing past them despite them explaining that they would get a chance to lawfully enter Guatemala, the way they assaulted Mexican federal police at the southern border with Chiapas, including throwing rocks, dismantling border infrastructure, and ultimately crossing the river unlawfully, and then pushing past them again in southern Chiapas when the federal police had asked them to regularize and register their presence in Mexico before moving further. And then, of course, the events of November 25th. Same group, same aggression, same type of tactics. This was a concern that was noted when it formed, when they entered Guatemala, and that's why we responded and requested assistance from DOD to make sure we had the right preparations in place to prevent a mass rush of our ports of entry and to help make sure we can maintain security and safety of all involved.
So based on its composition and based on the behavior of the group, you can't look me in the eye and say this group poses no threat.
They clearly do. They demonstrated it again 2 weeks ago. One
of the things that concerns me is I look at what we're able to do with scarce resources, with the personnel we have, and it's quite remarkable. In some ways, I worry that we might be asking too much of you, in that at times you face an overwhelming onslaught of those who are wanting to break our laws. We have to re-examine from time to time whether or not there's something about our laws that is encouraging this. And so I'd ask you what you would have in mind to do that, and I'd like to specifically raise the idea of a safe third country agreement. Tell us whether you think that might be something that is helpful. I've spoken to a couple of officials in the outgoing and now in the incoming Lopez Obrador administration in Mexico. Wanted to get your thoughts on a safe third country agreement.
So in studying this issue for years, I've been to refugee camps in Turkey. I was at the border between Norway and Russia where they had 5,500 folks arrive from 38 countries over a 2-month period back in 2015. It's very clear that whether it's Chancellor Merkel negotiating with President Erdogan or what Norway and Russia were able to achieve, that alignment of policy for asylum seekers between the destination country and the transit country is a very effective technique to address a regional phenomenon like this. Not the only thing, but it's an important step. I wouldn't presume to know the position of the incoming administration on this. Again, I would defer to the diplomatic level for ongoing discussions. But I think what you're seeing from the AMLO administration is a commitment to address regional migration flows. One of the first acts of President Lopez Obrador was to propose a significant aid package for Central America to address poverty, especially in the western highlands of Guatemala.
About $450 million, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a welcome partnership and investment, and I think will augment a lot of the U.S. efforts that are ongoing. going. But absolutely, you have to partner with transit countries to address this. You can see that in our own Safe Third Agreement with Canada, where people that cross between the ports of entry are returned to apply for asylum in the safe country that they're already in. It doesn't apply, however, between ports, and so we actually see a northbound flow between ports of entry going into Canada the last 2 years. Surprising development. So it's an interesting issue, and international agreements are a critical tool to address migration flows.
So one approach to it might be a safe third country agreement, whereby if someone's coming through Mexico en route to the United States, they would have to apply for asylum with the Mexican government. A related but analytically distinct solution would be an agreement requiring those crossing through Mexico en route to the United States intending to apply for asylum in the United States to remain in Mexico during the pendency of their asylum application. Would you regard that as a comparably good outcome as a safe third country agreement? How do those two relate?
Yeah, I think the way you put it is perfectly appropriate, Senator. Related but analytically distinct. They're both covered in Title VIII of our immigration laws as options for partnering with foreign governments on migration flows, and they're both things that we should think about and discuss.
And neither would require a change to current statute?
No.
Thank you very much.